$900 million. That's a mind-blowingly huge number, right? That's how much is going to be spent during the 2016 election. But the crazy thing is, that's not the total. No, that's the amount that is going to be personally spent by the now infamous Koch brothers. $900 million. How is that kind of number possible? Well, it's thanks to the 2010 Supreme Court decision known as Citizens United. Citizens United essentially lifted the spending limits on individuals and corporations and allowed the American electoral process to be flooded with billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of which is dark money. Dark money means we don't know where it comes from and we don't know where it's going. In the 2012 election, the FEC, the Federal Elections Commission, it reported that $7 billion was spent. And that is combined. It's the candidates, political parties, and the outside group. In 2014, well, those were the most expensive midterm elections in American history. And as for this upcoming election, well, the 2016 elections are projected to spend $10 billion. $4 billion of which will be on the presidential election alone. The Democratic and Republican frontrunners, they'll each spend $2 billion apiece. And just in the last 3 months, just since the end of June, $250 million has already been raised. By comparison, the spending limit on the current Canadian election is half that. $128,087,430 to be exact. And in Canada, those third-party contributions from corporations and the like, well, they're capped at $439,411. Just under about $500,000. In America, especially in post-Citizens United America, $500,000, it's lunch money. And so at this point, probably asking yourself, what's the rationale behind Citizens United? Why did the Supreme Court make this decision and allow so much money to be spent during elections? Well, in a nutshell, it's because corporations are people. And you might recognize that from the 2012 elections. But it wasn't just a catchy phrase that they put in campaign commercials to hurt Mitt Romney. It was, in actuality, the rationale that underlied the Supreme Court decision. The justices decided that financial contributions from corporations, well, they fall under the First Amendment. They're protected by the personal freedoms of expression. And they even went beyond that. They even stated that large amounts of money don't give rise to quid pro quo corruption. And that's a quote from them. But that rationale, it's not borne out by reality. You can look at the long history of American politics and see the corruption surrounding money in elections. Or you can just look at the recent history. Since 2010. Since that decision, there's already been corruption cases. One includes the case of a New Jersey senator named Robert Menendez, who went to bat with the federal government for a Florida ophthalmologist's Medicare dispute. New Jersey senator, Florida ophthalmologist. But he did this after that same ophthalmologist donated significant amounts of money to Senator Menendez's suit tax. The facts of the matter are pretty simple. When this much money is in play, corruption is inevitable. At this point, the solution isn't pretty simple, right? Just repeal Citizens United. But unfortunately, that's not enough. The issue of money and politics has been around for decades. It affects not just national elections, it affects state elections, it affects judicial elections, it affects local elections, multiple down-ballot races. And even beyond that, there's problems besides money. There's systemic problems. And the only way to truly tackle these problems is to adopt the policies of our northern neighbors and institute Canadian-like electoral policy. And that means having shorter, at least partially funded, publicly funded, and much more firmly regulated elections. If we do that, we can tackle not just spending that I discussed, but we can address one of the main reasons that those campaigns spend so much in the first place. And that's the media. Millions upon millions of dollars are spent on advertising. The fight for media attention, it's fierce, and it goes on for over a year. And the media doesn't just create that spending frenzy. It gives rise to, drug candidates. There's really no other way to describe them. Candidates like Donald Trump, who are uninformed, unprepared, and just generally unqualified to be president. If nothing that I've said so far, none of the numbers have shocked you, disturbed you, just imagine President Donald Trump having to have a sensitive, nuanced discussion on foreign policy with international leaders. Yeah. That image kind of collapses in on itself from the ridiculousness of it all. And the great thing about a shorter election cycle would be that it would cut off the oxygen that fuels the slash and burn candidacies like Trump's. And that's because the media and the electorate would actually have a reason to talk about the issues of the campaign and of the candidates. It wouldn't just be about getting, or it wouldn't have to just be about getting hits on Twitter or likes on Facebook. Or if you're cable news, getting your ratings up. And I know it sounds like I'm being very hard on the media. And I am. But you can't really blame them. I mean, what are they supposed to do when all the data they have right now that they could report on, it's not indicative of anything. History has shown us that this far out, almost 5 months before the first primaries and over a year from the general election, poll numbers and other measurements, they don't really say anything substantial. And so it makes sense that the media spent the entire summer concentrating on Trump's bluster to the detriment of any substantive political discussion. Because he got them eyeballs. And that's why shorter election seasons, they just make sense. Culturally and monetarily. I mean, do you know how long the average modern American election cycle is? 600 days. 600 days. That's from the Washington Post. Do you know how long the current election cycle in Canada is? 11 weeks. That's 77 days. And that's actually a historically long election for Canada. So historical that it's a very real point of frustration for the Canadian people right now. Oh, Canada, if you only knew. I mean, 600 days. That's what. That election cycle, it's why reforming our electoral process is so important. Because it's not just about curbing the ridiculous spending. It's about addressing this protracted election season that ultimately harms our political process. And that's what the core of the call for reform is about. It's about preserving this storied, democratic, and uniquely American system of voting. And, I recognize that there are many people who question the cost and ability of adopting Canadian practices and implementing them here in America. And to those people, I would say that we're actually much similar to Canadians than you might realize, with some key differences on specific issues like gun control and religion and poll very similarly. And even their parliamentary system, which yes is different from our system, it's largely been dominated by two parties, the Liberals and the Conservatives. So even their processes reflect ours. They are less polarized, yes, but the point still stands that there's no legitimate reason to doubt that their methods would fail to work here in America. And as for the monetary concerns about the budget or taxes, I understand that. But I would just ask, with a $10 million election looming, can we really afford not to act? FDR said at the end of his first term, in the midst of the Great Depression, "We know now that government by organized money is just as dangerous as government by organized mob." If he were alive today, I think he'd say something similar. And so, I would end by asking y'all to remember FDR's words. And hopefully, my words. And just make your voices heard. And you can do that by exercising your vote, by calling your congressman, but just don't simply sit back and allow the rich and the powerful to determine our elections, and with them, the future of our country. Elections belong to the people. Abraham Lincoln said that over a century ago. And I believe that it's just as true now as it was then. This upcoming election, and every election after, it belongs to you.